Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. I'm going to list this video under an XRP video so you all get the notifications, but I'm going to talk about the World Economic Forum a little bit. It looks like they're starting to lose steam. People are starting to change their mind about climate change. They're starting to speak out against it. So let's take a look. The World Economic Forum is no longer a safe space for the billionaire elites, from independent journalists holding corrupt leaders accountable to even CNN admitting that the World Economic Forum is losing relevancy. And they go on to say, however, the World Economic Forum attendees emitted 4 times the amount of CO2 emissions during 1 week in Davos than that of an average week. Not only were the elites exposed for their hypocrisy regarding carbon emissions, but Ava Yemini and Ezra Levin of Rebel News also confronted Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, who has so far faced very little questioning regarding the side effects and efficiency of his COVID-19 vaccine. So people are starting to call them out on their bullshit. They're starting to point out that no one's falling for it anymore either. Exclusive, Klaus Schwab steps back as chairperson of the World Economic Forum after a week of mutiny over his lack of succession strategy. Staff have labeled him law unto himself and Mr. Davos. The one thing we got to be concerned with, though, is if he steps back, who's going to take his place? That's the real question. I have divested from BlackRock for this reason. Americans don't want retirement money spent on climate change. And that's how you fight back. You hurt these companies on their bottom line. Because the most important thing to BlackRock is money. Americans do not want investment firms to spend their hard-earned retirement money spent on climate change and would prefer investment firms to focus on maximizing profits for retirement. A poll exclusive to Breitbart News conducted by CRC Research for the 85 Fund shows. The poll conducted earlier this month with 1,600 registered voters in the United States showed a majority, 59% of the respondents said the primary focus for government pension funds invested their money should be maximizing the amount of money earned for retirees. And that's who they should be looking out for, not this climate change agenda. Fed directs big banks to disclose how they are preparing for climate change risk. Now, the Fed is even pushing the narrative around climate change. So the 6 largest banks in the U.S. have until the end of July to show the impact that climate change could have on their operations. The institutions are to show the impact that climate could have on their loan portfolios and commercial real estate holdings. Participating banks include Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo. The deadline is July 31st. So I feel some of these banks will get hit with some sort of fees if they lend to a company that is emitting too much carbon in the future. The Fed should be abolished. We don't need the Fed in the U.S. anymore. We never needed it to begin with. This is inexcusable. Tech companies must be held accountable for enabling the fossil fuel industry greenwashing and disinformation. And this was great because they're talking about Twitter and Facebook. Negligence from big tech companies who not only continue to monetize and enable, but in some cases actively recommend such content to users. They don't want their climate change agenda debunked by people on social media. That's what it comes down to. They don't want me or you talking about it, period. Because if they're the only ones pushing an agenda or a narrative, people will continue to fall for it. Wait a minute. Just a few months ago, people like Theresa Tam and Justin Trudeau were telling us that everyone needed to get COVID shots every 3 to 4 months. More lies. FDA to propose yearly COVID vaccines like annual flu shots for Americans. And I didn't take their first vax. And then they tried to tie the vax in with the flu shot, which makes people not want to get the flu shot either. People are fed up with the whole vax at this point. And Canada's in real trouble with Trudeau. I can't even believe what's going on up there. No sense in creating a digital tracking infrastructure for vaccines not safe. don't work and are rejected by the population. World Economic Forum should stick to economic issues and stay out of biotechnology, not developing a good track record. And they want to make sure that they could track who got vaxxed and who didn't in the future. They're really pushing everything in that direction. And I don't like any of what the World Economic Forum wants to do because it's all about controlling me and you. Some of the World Economic Forum 23's talking points. European Commission says hate speech laws to come to the US. Moderna says the pandemic is still ongoing. Global vaccine tracking from Tony Blair. John Kerry says only money can solve climate change. Extra funding for the Ukraine. And if they need money to solve climate change, where do you think that money's going to? Look at John Kerry's net worth. And of course, they're going to keep the whole vaccine and pandemic going because that's also a major moneymaker. It all comes down to the money and hypocrisy. CBDCs, carbon footprint trackers, social credit scores, and CBDCs. We need to punish what we want to have less of through carbon pricing and so on. That's what they want to do in the future. They want to price you out of everything. That's why I always tell you, you got to get rich off your XRP while you still can, so you can go on with life as normal in the future. Anything you want to do, you want to travel, you're going to have to buy carbon credits. You want to drive a car, you're going to have to buy carbon credits. It all comes down to the money. One thing that Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple do is think big. Cross-border payments is the largest market for all crypto, and now carbon credits are on their radar, are also a massive use case. And again, I believe Brad is looking at the big picture. He knows carbon credits are going to be the biggest thing to come in the future. He says carbon credit marketplaces have been challenged because of, frankly, fraudulent carbon credits. People trading what actually aren't carbon offsets, and the ability to have the traceability, the ability to have an open, visible to anyone trading is, I think, very important, and I think can revolutionize how carbon credit marketplaces and the efficiency of carbon credit marketplaces. And I feel Brad knows that's where the money is. If you happen to be at the World Economic Forum in Davos, make sure not to miss the panel Liquidity in Climate Markets and Discovering a Global Carbon Price. I believe we're not seeing carbon credits being priced into the things we're buying right now because they don't have a global carbon price set yet. When that happens, they will implement that into everything. Most likely, when you go and pump gas, it's going to be at a much higher price because it's going to include carbon offsets. Other things are going to happen as well. You turn on your air conditioner, you're going to have to buy carbon offsets in the future. Everything is pushing in that direction, even through tokenization. New York City building owners and managers. Local Law 97 went into effect January 19th. Is your building ready to meet the demanding carbon emissions limits? Don't wait to make critical upgrades. The first compliance deadlines start in 2024. You know how they always say you'll own nothing and be happy? This is exactly how they could take your house from you in the future if you don't have money. All of a sudden, they say your house is emitting way too much carbon. So you'll have to do massive upgrades, expensive upgrades, and you can't afford it. So maybe you'd go to the bank and get a loan, but all of a sudden, maybe you don't get approved for that loan because your carbon usage is too high. Who knows? But that seems like that's how they're going to price us out of everything is through carbon. Bill Gates suggests a simple mathematical equation, P times S times E times C equals CO2, carbon dioxide output. P is population, S is services used by people, E is the energy needed for those services, C is the CO2 output. Reduce the population, reduce greenhouse emissions. And it's disgusting the way this guy thinks. I think he's a miserable old person at this point. He probably bought everything he's ever wanted in life. And he wants to now take control of the entire world. The same reason he's buying up all that farmland. Stealth climate control ban of children is a means of population control. This person is off their rocker. Climate control dogmatism is running rampant, and they're all loons duped into believing that our climate is failing. Climate extremists think your kids are a high cost luxury and bad for Mother Earth. They don't want people having children in the future. It's all about depopulation. And I feel this is just gross. They look at people's kids. Instead of seeing a kid standing there, they see carbon emissions. That's disgusting. The Great Reset is failing. Davos, the great climate con. All the citizens of the world have to appropriate for the planet. The 2030 agenda is the end of the human race. It's time to wake up. The good thing is, the Great Reset looks like it's failing. And as it fails, maybe the good people will take control of this planet. Maybe good people will be behind CBDC technology, have privacy laws put in place so they can't track all of our transactions and enslave all of us. And then we could go on with life as normal. Like I said in multiple videos, the fourth industrial revolution is here. It should be an exciting time in people's lives. Instead, we have Agenda 2030 looming on the horizon. It's almost like this is the greatest time of your life if Klaus Schwab wasn't a part of it, if the World Economic Forum didn't have hidden agendas and try to control the entire planet. But all I could say is this: we have to enrich ourselves while we can and hope this whole plan falls apart. This way we can enjoy all the money we make off of our XRP. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you watching my videos. Sometimes I like to change it up a little bit, talk about current events a little bit here and there. It's the weekend. I always like to do that. So I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.